water's edge. All my sins, they are forgiven. I'm not waiting till I'm dead to live in joy. Yeah, I'm gonna live in joy. Gonna live in joy, joy, joy. Gonna live in joy. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Earth below and sky above. I'm not waiting to get to heaven. Share my joy, oh, give my love, I'm gonna share my joy. Yeah, I'm gonna share my joy. Gonna share my joy, joy, joy. Gonna share my joy. It don't matter where I ramble. It don't matter where I roam. For this joy is always with me, and this love is my home. Oh, what joy! Oh, oh, what joy! Oh, what joy, joy, joy! Oh, what 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 joy!
Hello there, and welcome back. Today we're going to do a meditation about the expansion of one's own joy. Sit back, relax, release all focus on anything else. Gently let go of any other thoughts apart from your focus on the present. Let go of anything that feels heavy, anything that is weighing you down, and watch it easily float away. Take a deep breath and relax ever more deeply. Sometimes it can be easy to get caught up in the tasks of the day, to be work focused and goal orientated. But it's very important to give to yourself all that you need and be filled with that joyful, light energy, because that is what you are. Go deeper into peace as you breathe in for 1, 2, 3. And out for 1, 2, 3. Be aware of this experience, of the deepened peace. And now this time, as you intentionally breathe in for 1, 2, 3. And out for 1, 2, 3. Imagine this part of you which you are connected to, who had forgotten their joy, to love themselves in this way. God is inviting them into their joy. Accept this invitation now. Engage with that joy in whichever way comes naturally to you. You may imagine yourself receiving it as a flood of energy into your heart center, or you may imagine yourself floating with it, or you may even imagine yourself receiving it in a shared joke between you and God. Be with it, love and feel grateful for the joy that you already know. Expand and deepen it. Take all the time that you'd like to relate to this moment now. Once you're ready, give yourself a pat on the back for having intentionally connected with yourself, to have taken this much needed time for yourself. take a long, grounded breath in and out. And open your eyes. Until next time, Namaste.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's card reading for the Sunday service. I'm Drake and I'm using the Work Your Light Oracle card deck. Such a beautiful deck, one of my favorites. So yeah, the first card that I got here is Limura, or Limura, I'm not sure. But it's creating heaven on earth, it's happening. So this is, I love that, look at that. A nice confirmation. Yeah, this is why unionism was created, was to bring heaven onto earth, and have that for all of us. And so this card is really reminding, hey, you know, we're all doing that right now. We're all doing that, and it's happening. It's not happening in the future. It's not happening in 2 days. It's not happening, you know, a second from now. It's happening right now. We're doing it all right now. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for heaven on earth. It's right here, right now. And as long as we're making that choice to create it, it's happening. As soon as that choice is made, it's ours. So yeah, I love that. It's like a really, really big confirmation. This is what we're doing, right? We're having heaven on earth. Share your voice. Come out of the cave. Persecution and expression. Oh, look at that. Yes, so in order to have heaven on earth, we have to share ourselves. We have to share our divine and authentic selves. And you know, sharing ourselves is really about sharing God, because when we allow ourselves to share, we're allowing God to come directly like through us, and God wants to express himself through us. And so that's why it's important, you know, if there's a fear, or if you're afraid, or if you're not really sure, it's important to work through that, because you're ultimately shining God's light. And so whatever you feel is holding you back, let go of that. It's not serving you. What's serving you is choosing love. It's choosing to serve God here, where God's calling you. Hey, share your voice, share yourself, share your gift. And that's a beautiful thing. That's how we create heaven on earth, sharing ourselves. Warrior woman, if you weren't afraid, what would you do? Yeah, this is perfect. If you weren't afraid of yourself and your divinity, what would you do? Right? How would you express yourself? How would you feel? How would you live your life? What would you take on? Right? And so when you get really clear on why you're afraid, work through that. Work through that and just choose love, because you're working for God, right? You're sharing for God, you're loving for God. And in that space, you have everything that you want. So what's there to fear, right? And maybe you're afraid of shining. Maybe you're afraid of, you know, seeing yourself, right? This is our divine selves, and it's okay to be afraid, but know that fear is just preventing you from having exactly what you want. So let it go. Like I said, let it go, and let God show you the way, right? God wants to show you the way. God wants you to be your divine self and share yourself. And so there's no need to be afraid. And so go into that space of, how would it feel to just be my authentic self? How would it feel to express myself and to love myself? And once you have that feeling, share and work from that place. Yeah, I love that. And the last and final card we have here is take a break. A life's work, not a season. Get off the treadmill. So yes, while it's important to work and share yourselves with the world, it's also important to take a break and to relax and to love yourself. And when you're relaxing, what you're doing is you're filling up your cup. You're filling up your cup, you're giving all your love and attention to yourself. So then once your cup is filled and overflowing, you can share that into the outer world, right? You can share that with others, and being yourself and giving that love will be much easier once your cup is full. If you're not taking care of yourself first, if you're not loving yourself first, you can't give anywhere else. You can't really give if you're not giving to yourself. So give to yourself. Put yourself first. It's important. And you're going to feel a lot better in giving. Maybe that's what's preventing you from giving more and sharing yourself, because you're not truly loving yourself in the area where you need it most. So choose that for yourself. Yeah, it's okay. It's safe to choose yourself first. It's safe to love yourself first. Right. So let's just recap. We got creating heaven on earth. It's happening. A nice confirmation. Share your voice. Come out of the cave. Persecution and expression. Yes. Expressing your divine self is powerful. Warrior woman. If you weren't afraid, what would you do? Yeah. Say no to fear. Doesn't serve you. And last is take a break. Take a break. It's good. It's important to take a break, right? Do it. You're worthy of that. You're worthy of supporting yourself. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much and enjoy the rest of Sunday service. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday service today. And thank you for joining us. Today, we will be hearing a sermon from Jose and Michaela on the process of purification, and it is my pleasure to introduce this sermon to you today. And one of the things that I feel was really fortuitous about this sermon is that it's actually quite well timed, in the sense that I just have a feeling that there's a lot of movement happening and probably a lot of sense of discomfort at the moment. And I know for myself, I'm experiencing just changes that probably don't feel as comfortable as they could. And so it is taking time to just become comfortable and to allow the process to unfold. And so that's one of the things that really stands out about the sermon from Jose and Michaela, is around just being surrendered in the process and allowing the process to unfold. And I feel like they share something that's been probably a lesson that we've learned as we've grown up, but have not really identified it in that way. And that is the concept of leaning into something. And I remember, one of the TFAS classes Jeff shared that when you went for a massage, as opposed to resisting the pain of the massage, he actually leaned into the pain and allowed the pain to actually be worked through faster. And I think it's something that we have learned over the years, but we probably don't quite see it in that way. And it's, the sense of where you resist something, it takes a lot more effort and energy. Whereas leaning into it allows movement forward through it at a faster pace. And it's literally the sense that the resistance creates the force of resistance back to you, whereas leaning into it allows that force to be dissipated. And I think it's, and as Michaela shared, it's quite a scientific process, but I feel like there's a lot of components of our healing and life in itself that's mimicked very much in scientific principles and mathematical principles and those kind of things. And it's really cool to draw the connection and to see how all these things fit together, because there's never really anything that's isolated from anything else. And so another thing that stood out for me was just Michaela and Jose sharing at a level of just breaking it down, just really getting to the core of the message and allowing us to go on a journey with them through their sermon. And another thing that stood out for me was also just them sharing their perspective on how it feels to allow yourself to lean in and approach the process and the healing from a place of knowing that there's good for you in this process, that it's happening for you, and letting, and almost by association, then letting go of the perception and the feeling that it's happening to you. And I feel like that's also something that probably allows us to relax a little more, but more when we realize that it's for our highest good, it's for our highest benefit. And I love that they shared that, whether you've been practicing through the teachings of Jeff and Shaleia for a while, or you're new to the journey, it's always a learning cycle, and that your learning is cyclical. And I feel like we constantly have the reminder to relax. And it's about us giving ourselves permission to relax. And we don't always do that, and we haven't necessarily been taught that in our lives growing up, and I know I haven't, and so maybe I'm overgeneralizing it, but I also believe that it's something good to raise, to say, well, just also look into that place where you may not have been taught that it's okay to relax and that relaxation is appropriate. And I also appreciated it, Jose and Michaela just sharing that there's no real need to feel stressed. There's no real need to identify with the pain or the upset, or even if there are things in your reality that don't feel or look so great, that there's always an opportunity to heal, because there's a gift for you in that process. And I like the example that Jose shared around, what do you do with gifts under a Christmas tree? You don't actually leave them there and stare at the boxes. You actually do the work of unpacking your gifts. And our healing journey is really just that. It's the work of unpacking our gifts. And sometimes the wrapping paper doesn't really look so great, but the gift is probably quite appropriate, quite fitting, and probably exactly what you need that you didn't know you needed. So there definitely is a requirement for a perspective shift. And it is really incumbent on us to allow ourselves to have that perspective shift, to give ourselves the space to have that perspective shift, and to realize that our journey is going to have components that we might not quite like, but that shift us along the path. And Michaela shared something around the fact that there's always a breakthrough, even though it probably looks like it's a breakdown. Like there's the sense that there's probably, the challenge feels a little bit tougher as you're heading into a breakthrough. And so it is required to realize that, yes, it might feel tougher, and that, yes, it feels like work, but at the same time, to always bear in mind that there's a purpose to it, and that there's something at the end of the process for you. And I've also found that in my healing journey, that the cyclical process does come up, and it's literally the sense of excavating ground to lay new foundation. And literally, if you've ever seen excavation happening, there isn't one process of excavation. It literally happens over and over and over until there is space to lay a deeper foundation that can hold a structure. And really, that's what's happening with us. We are building our foundation, and sometimes we're rebuilding it. And it might sometimes feel like we're rebuilding it from scratch. But I feel like the sense I have is that I'd rather rebuild it from scratch than to have something crumble after I've worked really hard on it. And so I hope that that also resonates with you and that it allows you to experience a level of relaxation into the process. And also that it allows you to just shift your perspective when things don't feel so great. And I feel like Jose's and Michaela's sermon really just allows us to be cognizant of everything that could potentially happen on the journey and how that may or may not feel to you, and what you can do with those feelings and those spaces and those times so that your journey becomes a little bit lighter and a little bit more comfortable, and that you learn to appreciate your unfoldment. And so I'd like to invite you to just sit back and relax and to allow Jose and Michaela to minister to you today through their sermon, and that you take the message that most resonates with you and you work with it and allow it to allow you to have a more comfortable journey, because there is no reason to feel stressed out. There is no reason to freak out. And so I'd like to, as I said, invite you to just sit back and relax, and I will see you at the end of this sermon.
Hi everyone, I'm Jose.
And I'm Michaela. Welcome back to another Church of Union Sunday sermon. Please join us for our opening ohms and our opening prayer.
I am the only child of God, forever part of Him. I am created by Him in perfection, and there I always remain. My mind is my sanctuary, where I keep His holy creation sacred. I will only allow in His voice. I will only accept His word.
Today I will hear the word of God. I surrender myself to His teachings through His divine channel. I will honor what He has spoken and accept it as His will. I will be obedient to His word, for this is my salvation. In Christ's name,
Amen.
So thank you for joining us today, and we have an interesting topic to talk about, and we want to talk about the process of purification and making peace with it and enjoying it, and like releasing resistance to the process, because there's a really like scientific process to it, and it's something that once you really understand it and you understand the cycles of the spiritual journey and the cycles of the spiritual work and the cycles of purification, that you don't have to really stress about it, you know. And so we also want to talk about releasing stress and like finding joy in the journey, even though we all go through our challenges and we have our, you know, spiritual trials. It doesn't have to be hard, you know, like it doesn't have to be like painful, or you don't have to suffer, basically. Like you can really learn to enjoy the process and just like surrender into it. So that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, we want to speak about how it's not necessary to be stressed about the process or being motivated by the fear that you are feeling, and instead moving through a place of peace and recognizing that this is only the same process that if you are applying this teaching for a while, you are already familiar with, and it's okay to just relax into it and surrender. Jeff posted something recently in one of the forums, and we loved it.
I think it was his personal.
Oh, he's okay. And he said, allow yourself the pleasure of the ascension.
Yeah, like allow yourself the pleasure of ascension.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk about that because it is very true. Your ascension journey should be pleasurable to you, because we all know that we move through a lot of challenges and maybe difficult feelings and difficult situations, but it's important that we don't forget why we do this. Why are we working through all of these challenges? Why facing all the difficulties in our life? What is the end goal? It has to be a purpose for it. It has to be a motivation to move through it, and that motivation has to be strong enough so you can feel confident into moving to the next chapter. And this is something that we were healing recently. It's like, why are we feeling stressed about it? Why do you need to feel under pressure? Because the pressure is going to come, and it's going to come to purify your consciousness, and you can do two things. You can increase the fear, you can feed into it and freak out, or you can just feel the fear, don't identify with it, and so, okay, I feel like a lot of fear, that's okay, and let's surrender into the process of just healing it without increasing it more. And that makes it so much easier on you.
Yeah, it's true. Like when you find yourself in those moments where you're like, oof, like I am being challenged. Like I am in the middle of something really intense, and yeah, you really do have that choice to just like cower, and like kind of feel weak about it and complain and be upset. Or you can just choose to like surrender to what's really happening, and that we all know at this point. And if you're new to this work, like you're gonna learn that it's just part of the process. Jeff and Shaleia talk about this in their book. That there are like cycles, where you go through the stage of upset and then you arrive at the peace. And that they said in their book they were able to start to time when their next cycle of upset would arise. And it's okay to just surrender to that, because the upsets that come up and the spiritual challenges that you have will get you kind of where you feel the most weak and the most uncomfortable and the most like unpleasant place that where the ego is like deeply rooted. And of course it doesn't feel good and fear comes up, but yeah, it's okay to just surrender. And I find that really empowering, and we went a lot deeper with that recently and realized that there's just no reason to feel stressed. Like, like that just adds to it is not productive at all to like stress and freak out, because at the core you always know what's happening and you are moving forward. And it's like that saying, it's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. And if you've been doing your spiritual work all along and making the right choices, and then suddenly it seems like life is falling apart, or like everything's kind of blowing up, like you have to remember to have faith in those moments and not abandon your faith and the process, and know like you really are leveling up. And it usually tends to get the hardest, the darkest before the dawn. Like there tends to be a big like a challenge before a breakthrough.
Yeah, I want to speak about that because like if you are really doing your spiritual work and you are moving through everything in your life and moving forward with that, you come to this moment when everything feels like under pressure, like very hard, and then is when fear is going to sneak into your mind.
Very insidious.
Everything is falling apart. You are like doing something wrong or feel bad about it, but it's important to listen only to that part in your mind that is like, relax, is happening for you. It's not going to be bad, and we all feel like pushed to the limit a lot of times, and God is going to pushed to the limit, and every time it's like, oh my god, this is my line. This is like a lot. But I remember in one of the classes, Jeff was like, he said something like, God is a passionate lover, and sometimes the challenges that love is going to ask of you are going to require almost your last breath. Like it's going to take like everything of you. You need to give everything to love if you want to receive everything from love. And it can seem intense, but it's a very beautiful relationship once you see what is actually happening. And we were talking about this before recording this sermon, how we realized, like, since we started applying this teaching, we have been under pressure a lot. But that pressure only made us mature spiritually, and we are very grateful for that, because we realize that everything that we have in our life that is good requires a level of spiritual maturity, and that maturity don't come to you by magic or like that.
Chance,
Yeah, it's something that you earn, and you you work for, and it's a goal to have that level of peace in your mind. And that is the place where you can hold your reality. You can maintain it in a place of peace, like your harmonious union. You need to be strong at the core, and that is everything that the universe is doing by showing you all of these weak places. Is a very loving thing, so you can escape the weakness and raise over that.
Yeah, I think the book, The Laws of the Spirit World, talks about how most people are weak by choice, and how, like your challenges come to make you stronger. And it's true, like I feel like, well, I would rather, I'm sure everyone would rather go through life like able to handle challenges rather than not be able to handle challenges. But yeah, you really don't want to go through life just like easily triggered by everything and everyone, and like it's okay to be strengthened and just to kind of remember what this is all for when you're in the middle of your biggest challenges, and to have faith, because there's a Twin Flame Ascension School class where Jeff says, if your journey is like, pulling out the weeds of your garden, like sometimes you can get so focused on just pulling out weeds that you forget like why you're doing it. You forget the bigger picture. And so sometimes it's just important to zoom out, in perspective, and look at the bigger picture of what you're doing, because there's definitely like those cycles of pulling out weeds, and suddenly you're like, is this my whole life? Is this my purpose? Like pulling out weeds, but it's not, like there are those moments. But yeah, that's where it's the most important to like fall back on the work, and like let the work and the teachings kind of be that foundation of what's happening, and to keep trusting and keep applying the work when you're in those moments, because it always pays off.
Yeah, in that book, in the Laws of the Spirit World, it says that the appropriate response to challenges and trials on life is with a smile. You need to face them by choice. You need to be with gratitude, like with a smile in your face, and let's move through this one, let's heal this one. And that really makes you strong, because if you are facing all your fears and dissolving them, you become fearless in your life and very strong. And that's what makes your life easy, is that you are strong to handle everything that comes your way, and you have power in every detail of your reality. And that is very relieving for you, for your union, to have that foundation of stability with God, of peace with God, relief, escape from fear, be more peaceful.
Yeah. So when you're in the middle of those really, the middle of your tribulation or spiritual challenge, it just feels so much better to recognize what's happening, because the voice of fear will always come in and try to freak you out and make you feel like something is wrong, like something's gone wrong, or you're doing bad, and this is, you should feel guilty, and you should feel just like afraid. That's what the voice of fear wants you to think. And so, yeah, it's just so important to always remember the teaching. Like, what did Jeff and Shaleia teach? To listen to that voice of fear? No, they don't teach that. And so, yeah, like, it's okay to just face those fears and just to not listen to that voice and know, like, just part of the process. You can just relax. Like, you don't have to, you can be calm, you know, in the middle of a spiritual challenge and kind of just, like, center yourself and remember, like, this is just part of the process. I'm being purified. And then I feel like you develop kind of an appreciation for those moments, and it feels almost good because you know that you're being strengthened. It's like, you know, it's like a good burn, like when you're lifting weights and it's like, you know, it's like pushing you, but you know you're getting stronger. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, that feels very good. And you start looking at these moments like pure gold. Because it's like, this is when you grow, this is when you change, and it's like, okay, it's coming, let's get at this, and you develop a lot of gratitude for the feeling of breakthrough. You know that feeling when you are healing something big and it's finally over, and it's like finally, and that happiness, that joy, and normally that beautiful insight about God and how God was loving you all the way, and how safe you were. Because sometimes we freak out because we see our reality reflecting something, and it's like, okay, God is out, it's dangerous, or it's like, but it's not. You can look back at your challenge of your past, one of them, and you can see how protected you were. And this is something that for me, it brings me a lot of comfort in every challenge we move through. You just look back, never happened.
Yeah, you feel safe.
Nothing happened. Yeah, you feel safe. And you recognize that when you were in the middle of those challenges, maybe you didn't feel God in that space, or you didn't feel love that close or that much safety. But then you look at them from the actual present. That was a mess. You look back and you saw that everything was fine, and you can trust that this time is going to be fine too. So there is no need to
panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like panicking and freaking out and kind of like lamenting over the upsets, just it's really exhausting, and it leaks your energy when you do that, rather than just being calm and collected and moving through the challenge with a smile. And I feel like that is like a form of spiritual maturity, but like it's so much more compassionate to approach your challenges that way, and just really like not allow them to derail you so much anymore. Like that's been something I've been learning for as long as I've been doing this work. But I feel like lately we've really been grounding into that one, that there's nothing to fear. And I remember a long time ago, like in 2017 or 2018, I got a vibrational progress report from Jeff, and one of the channeled messages was like, you know, if you're serious about this work, then you'll choose to completely reject fear. And that most people, almost everybody in the world, does not reject fear at all. Like they worship fear and treat it like it's God. And fear will chase you around and make you feel like it will hurt you if you don't listen to it, and that it's going to keep you safe, but it never does. And yeah, he said, like, don't run from fear. That's what it wants you to do. Like, you sit with the fear and you love yourself, and that's what returns you to love. And he said it's time you stand up for yourself and what you know, and stand up to fear. And yeah, it was just so liberating. And just, years later, now it's 2022, I always read that because it just gives me so much peace and comfort. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable the fear is, like, you just dive into the fear. I think Jeff and Shaleia have said before in classes, like, lean into that feeling, and then you purify it.
Yeah. And something that we have noticed, and everyone in the journey can resonate, the stronger that you get, the more peaceful you get, and the more you reject fear, your relationship with God goes deeper. You can have that new level of maturity and of peace, and God is going to guide you places, and it's a very beautiful thing. And you develop that trust in God, and if you have more faith, God can take you faster and can take you to the place where you want to go. And I remember in one of the Sunday sermons of Jeff and Shaleia, they were speaking about faith, and Jeff said, it just takes a little of faith for God to move you a little. But if you have a lot of faith, God is going to move you faster. And if you know that it's God taking you by the hand, just hold the hand and move through the fear. Don't let go of God in the middle of it. Don't let go of love or abandon yourself. Choose to complete it, to master the challenge. And you're going to feel very happy about yourself. You're going to feel very accomplished, and yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's how, like, that's what Jeff and Shaleia teach in their classes, is that when you do that and you have that level of discipline and persistence and just determination and diligence with your spiritual work, you uncover and like develop a deep joy within you. You know, like it's kind of impossible to be happy without clearing away the blocks, you know, like, but like when you do that, yeah, like that's how you can be really happy and enjoy the journey, is you're clearing out this, you know, the ickiness. And I feel like it's just so rewarding that it makes you want to just keep going, you know, and it makes you want to just keep growing that feeling. And yeah, like it's okay to be human, you know, too. Like we don't all have, we're not always, you know, sometimes we have better days and sometimes we're, you know, struggling a little more, but at the end of the day, like it's a really satisfying life to live, you know, when you're doing this work and you're understanding what you're doing and you choose to be present with what's coming up and you choose to not give into that fear whenever you're going through a challenge, because yeah, like that's like the challenges are not going to go away until perfect union. And so at some point you have to accept that, you know, instead of pushing against it, because it's really the resistance to the process that feels so bad. It's the resistance to feeling the feelings and feeling what's coming up, or maybe like attaching yourself to the feelings that are coming up that feels so bad. But once you let all that go and you just literally follow the teaching word for word, like to the T, it's a really beautiful process, and it creates so much joy and satisfaction. Every single day, you know, like at the end of the day, you're like, okay, maybe today was not the easiest day, but I'm proud of myself, you know, like I feel it's like very satisfying.
Yeah, I'm one step closer to that. And yeah, you remember what you are actually doing, and give yourself the appreciation for moving through your fears every day, one day after the other, because you are claiming a reality of perfection for yourself and your union. And yeah, is that worth it? It does deserve your entire attention, because what you are getting cannot be described with words. I guess none of us can understand what is actually perfection in everything, but at the same time, every day you understand it a little more when your reality changes a little, and you are one step closer to, this feels very good, this feels very aligned in my life. I have a little more of God that I discovered, but you have a lot of God to discover, and that is very good. It's like Christmas and you have a pile of gifts. Start opening them, and yeah, it takes work to open them, but do you prefer to have the boxes in there, or do you prefer to enjoy the gifts that God is giving you? And if you look at it that way, it's a very beautiful experience, because your life is more and more and more perfect every single day. And that is the teaching and what this teaches.
That's what you said at the beginning, the pleasure of Ascension.
The pleasure of Ascension.
You just have a lot of good to receive on this journey, and so that's how you want to frame it. Like, you don't want to look at it as like, oh, I have to work through my upsets, I have to feel bad. You want to look at it as, I get to feel better and receive so much good. I get to receive all of my good. Like thinking about your journey in a positive way rather than a negative way. Like, it's life-changing, you know, to do that. There's no reason to feel bad, you know, like, and if you notice you feel bad, you can just immediately work through it, and that's how you live a happy life with discipline.
And discipline yourself to not feel bad. And it's okay to feel the bad feelings, but choosing to not accept feeling bad. Not sitting on the upset, not sitting on the block, just moving through it and finding the peace. And that is a very happy life, because you can conquer everything.
And you really love yourself that way. Like, you really, like, you deserve to feel good, and you deserve to feel like at your best. And even though it's not perfect all the time, like, you know, on the outside it seems that way, like it is perfect because yeah, you're doing it for God and you're doing it for you and your twin flame. And it's just really beautiful. And I guess the last point that I want to share is before harmonious union, when I was going through my, cave of fear, like my dark night of the soul, I remember like just, day in, day out, working through stuff, just didn't, really challenging time. But I remember watching a TFAS class where Jeff said that this is how you romance God, is like through the work and through giving your all to it. And I remember just reflecting and being like, I feel like God feels very romanced by me. Like I felt that. Like I really felt proud of myself because I knew like nothing, it did not look good on the outside. Like it looked very messy, but on the inside I was like all in. Like I was 100% engaged in my life and in my spiritual work and in my purpose, and like I was doing my very best. And that's what God appreciates. It's not about like how it looks. God's not like a perfectionist. It's not about looking good on the outside. It's about what's really happening on the inside. And I had that nice like little moment of just like, I am doing my best, and that's all you can do. You can't do more than your best. And so that's how you romance God.
Yeah. Right, that's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Good. So please join us for the closing prayer and the closing alms. Father, I accept your word into my heart. I will honor your will in my life and will follow you without hesitation anywhere you ask. I know you guide me into your heart, where I belong. I accept that you are everywhere, and your teaching is in all things. God, I know you provide me clarity in this teaching of union, that I may be forever in union with you.
I accept that you are in me as you are in my brother. I will not deny my brother your word, and will share your teaching with him in any way you ask, and only as you ask. For when I share my salvation with him, I fully claim my salvation and return to you with him.
In Christ's name, Amen.
Speaking this prayer in your heart means that you have accepted you are on the path of awakening to your true divine nature. This is what it means to be a unionist. Follow the teachings of union with God wherever you find them, and purify your consciousness into perfect union with your Creator. Thank you so much for joining us for another Sunday sermon, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello again, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed the sermon by Michaela and Jose as much as I did, and that you have received the message that was most resonant with you, and that you allow yourself the time and space to work through what they've shared with you today in their sermon, so that it also just allows you to have a lighter, more comfortable, more relaxed journey. And that you also keep the perspective that you made the choice to go on this journey. And so there are gifts and there are processes in this journey that will allow you to shift where you need to shift. I'd also like to invite you to visit our unionism.org page, all our past sermons, music, meditations, and card readings. You will also be able to donate to tithe to contribute to the Church of Union's message to the world. We'd also like to invite you to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our previous Sunday services and any other live discussions that have happened in our Unionism Spiritual Discussion group on Facebook. And directly after the Sunday service, we will also be hosting an after-church tea time, which is a panel discussion by a panel of Unionists about today's sermon and their learnings and takeaways from today's sermon. And that you will also find on our Unionism Spiritual Discussion group on Facebook. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And we hope that you have a really great week ahead. And we look forward to seeing you for our next Sunday service. Thank you, everybody.